is Jo Kwong, as you just heard, and I'm with the Philanthropy Roundtable, which is a nonprofit association in Washington, D.C. We're an association of individual philanthropists, foundations, and other donors who are committed to advancing liberty, opportunity, and personal responsibility through their charitable giving. What we do at the Roundtable is we help donors achieve their charitable objectives by linking them to the people, the ideas, and the resources they need to augment the effectiveness of their philanthropy. So the Roundtable very regularly convenes panelists, such as the one that we have here, to talk about opportunities and challenges in philanthropy. And as you might imagine, entrepreneurship education is an area that our members are very, very interested in and have put a lot of investment in. So it really is a great pleasure for me to be here today moderating this panel. The topic is a timely one, as we've said over and over again, job creation, and that always leads to a focus on entrepreneurship education. Unfortunately, even though it is a very timely topic for right now, it's an area that philanthropists have been investing in for a significant length of time. And collectively, among the 6 foundations that we have here, there really is a lot of expertise. So the focus of the panel is looking at the future of funding for entrepreneurship education. And in many ways, we're going to be tapping into that question by looking to the past. What are some of the lessons that we can tease out of these many years and dollars of investment from the philanthropic community? What kinds of lessons can we learn, in particular with regard to the 2 topics or areas that philanthropists really tend to look at, scalability and replicability? From their experience, what kinds of things can be taken to another scale? What kinds of things can be replicated? What have been particularly effective? What are the things that have caused programs to falter? And of course, we always want to make sure that we understand that. I think the one thing that you will see from this panel is that entrepreneurship education has been very, very broadly approached over the past number of years. And I think that you will find that the panelists very much represent a lot of the ideas that were mentioned earlier by the keynote speakers today. And in particular, for example, these aren't people who are just sitting in business schools or focusing on programs housed in business schools. They recognize the importance of really fostering an entrepreneurial way of thinking among all kinds of potential entrepreneurs. So you'll see folks who have been out, say maybe in the arts and music schools, teaching artists and musicians how they can learn to market their talents and their products. You might see some of the programs involved in engineering schools where some of the greatest scientific minds of our nation are housed. And how can the engineers learn how to assess and evaluate the many ideas that they are involved with on a daily basis? But even more broadly, as we heard earlier today, when we focus on the university, we're only getting a small number of the potential entrepreneurs out there. In this economy right now, we have an awful lot of kids in community colleges, and that is certainly an area that entrepreneurs and philanthropists have been focusing on. And lastly, another area, let's move beyond the university and college space. What's going on with regard to high school and even younger? And I know many of you here are involved with programs at that level, so I think that you would be glad to hear that, again, philanthropists are interested in all of those spaces. So without taking more time, let me just give you an idea of how we're going to run this panel. I'm just going to read the names of our panelists. You have more information than you could take care of right now in your panel to know what you need to about them. And then each one will speak for only 3 to 5 minutes. And as they're speaking, jot down questions that you may have, because as we keep to time, there should be a good length of time for Q&A. And again, think about some of those. Lessons learned, replicability, scalability. How do we engender an entrepreneurial way of thinking? So our first speaker will be Michael Hennessy, who's the Executive Director of the Coleman Foundation. He'll be followed by Deborah Hoover, President and CEO of the Burton D. Morgan Foundation, and Nish Acharya, with the Executive Director of the Despande Foundation, Tim Crewell, Program Director of the Kern Family Foundation, And then Susan Reardon with the National Chamber Foundation. And bringing up the rear, we have Phil Weilerstein, Director of the National Collegiate Inventors and Innovators Alliance. So with that, I'm going to now turn the mic over to Michael.
I've got more questions for you than I have answers for you. I don't have an 800 number for you to call to get all the money that you need to do everything that you want to do. That's part of our, I'm sorry. There's too few dollars for too many wonderful programs. You all know that. I think Jeff and Doug did a really good job this morning painting what entrepreneurship looked like when they first got into it. It was a pretty lonely avenue. There was a lot of John the Baptist activity going on out there by a handful of people, Kathy Ashmore included, Jerry Hills, a number of other people working very, very hard, trying to legitimatize what you guys are doing today. And it was all about awareness. And the good news was, there was so little of it going on, that there wasn't a whole lot of accountability for what happened. You could just get it out there, talk about it, get people to understand the beginnings of the importance. We followed that by helping develop classes, professorships, classes, curriculums at various colleges. We did our first chair in entrepreneurship in 1981. I first met Doug when he was an ACE member in probably 1987. So it's been going on for a long time. Feels like we should, as Doug said, feels like we should be making a lot more progress on this than we are. There have been great strides, but I think part of our challenge has to do with the message that we get out there. What is it that we really want to have happen? And you've heard it several times today, talking about what's really about economic development. And unfortunately, or fortunately, we chose education as a vehicle to deliver our method of entrepreneurship. And sometimes in order to get that inroad, the message gets mixed in with all the other educational needs that are out there. We prevent dropouts, retention rate is better. It's a great pedagogical method. All of those are wonderful things to do, but we get to the bottom line, as Doug said this morning, and it's something we have been repeating for 20 years. The bottom line is to create the next generation of entrepreneurs. The rest of it is icing on the cake that we get to do. So I think we really need to think about the message that we're all out there trying to bring to the community. The applications, you know, you've heard a lot about the experiential component, and that's really something that's changed tremendously here lately, is the hands-on. Again, it went from sheer theory, sheer academic, and you heard it over and over again this morning about the need for hands-on, and then the incubator and the lab work that goes next to it. And that's what makes you guys what you are, and what's going to be the most value of going forward. We're working hard on a pathway program. It's very, very important to think about that arc that goes across entrepreneurship education. Not just your pathway into it, but what does that educational pathway look like? We started at the collegiate level, dropped back, picked up secondary schools, starting with Steve Mariotti and high-risk students. And then we had to realize that we ignored Heather Van Sickle and all the community college programs. We had to jump back into that and correct some of our mistakes. Now one of the things that we really have to look at is, what does that pathway look like? Foundations, I won't speak for anybody else, but I can tell you what my experience is. We want you to work together, but we don't work that well together ourselves. And that's our feat of clay. It's a challenge. We're just like you. We get busy, we get focused. We have our own issues that we have to deal with and our own schedules. But we really need to do a much, much better job of working together and working on collaborations and how that really works. And what oftentimes the reason feels to me is that the grant seekers are looking to us to generate the collaborations. It is much easier if you come in the door with your 5 buds in tow and say, this person's going to do this, this person's going to do this, that we can see that you guys already have a plan on how to do this, and with some beginnings of a vestige of what that sustainability looks like. I'm not saying you have to have all the money in the bank. If you had it, you wouldn't be here. We understand that, but it's a matter of what that vision can look like. And if we don't conquer some of that and begin to work together and look at what build upon the past, and get to the future, that's an ultimate threat to us. So I'm going to leave it at that.
All right, well, with a short time, I'm going to launch right in. So, as Joe mentioned, I'm Deborah Hoover with the Burton D. Morgan Foundation. The foundation is a private foundation located in Hudson, Ohio. We do $5+ million of grant making each year. Our founder was Burt Morgan. He was a serial entrepreneur, told us he founded more than 50 companies during his lifetime. The mission of the foundation that he established back in 1967 is to foster the entrepreneurial spirit. And we do that through support of educational programs for children, for college students, and for adults. So Mr. Morgan, in starting those 50 companies, it was largely by trial and error, and so he made a lot of mistakes along the way, and he always said that he regretted that when he was a student, he didn't have the opportunity to take advantage of entrepreneurship education and felt that it would have really helped him. So he wrote a lot, he left a lot of his legacy and his thinking for us about the need for entrepreneurship education, and that is, in fact, the mission of the foundation. So I'm going to tell you a little about some of the college programs that we're working on. We're fast forwarding now to 2011. We're actually working with a pilot project with the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation to spread entrepreneurship across 5 Northeast Ohio liberal arts colleges. So it's joint funding, $6.3 million with a matching component. The program's now in its 4th year, and so it includes Oberlin, Hiram, Baldwin-Wallace, Lake Erie College, and the College of Worcester. In addition, the Morgan Foundation is also funding programs by itself on Ashland's campus, Kenyon, Denison, John Carroll, and Case Western. And we're very pleased that these schools are all networked within Northeast Ohio, so we bring them together frequently to compare notes, successes, challenges, and do some mid-course corrections along the way. So what have the results been? Just show you a few examples of some of the companies that have come out of these programs. So this is a program at Oberlin College, a 5th-year program. So with the grant dollars, students who are seniors are able to apply with their business idea to the 5th-year program. This group of young men developed InkRen, which promotes the Scritter program, which helps to teach people Japanese and Chinese characters. And then at the College of Worcester, with a professor and his students in the chemistry department developed a product called Ozorb. They founded ABS in 2008, and Ozorb is revolutionizing water treatment and environmental remediation. And a student who interned with ABS is now the director of marketing. She came out of the entrepreneurship program at Worcester. At Hiram College, a group of students in a social justice program using what they learned in their class and then using some of the expertise from the Entrepreneurship Center at Hiram started their Olive Branch Fair Trade store on campus. And then an interesting one at Lake Erie College, known for its equine program, now has an equine entrepreneurship program. And they are working on companies to develop waste to energy. I won't say too much more about that. And then also breed-specific horse feed. And then at Case Western, some exciting things going on there. Citizen Groove is an online audition site for musicians. It's a company founded by a recent grad who won the 2009 Regional Business Plan Competition, Launchtown. And then more Case Western students. These are students who started Fresh Fork, a virtual farmers market. So lots of benefits coming out of these programs. We're finding that liberal arts students are great problem solvers, and given the right tools through the entrepreneurship programs, they're able to start companies and come up with some great ideas. We're also finding that the regional networks that we put in place provide competitions, events, speakers, ideas, and faculty all shared throughout the region, and that this has done a lot to strengthen these programs and hasten their success. So I'll stop there, but I'll be happy to answer questions in a few minutes.